StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, you fall to the level of your preparation. Now, there is a saying that we have all heard before called rising to the occasion. Are you familiar with that term, rising to the occasion? I'm sure many of you have heard it before. Maybe you have even used it. And that saying is actually a misnomer because that's not really what happens. That's not really what happens as a general rule. I'm not saying that every once in a while somebody may not outperform their norms. That sometimes happens in life, but we want to talk about the general point, what generally happens, which is not people just all of a sudden rising to the occasion. The occasion, is bigger than their current level of performance. And then just because the occasion has occurred, all of a sudden they start performing at a super high level. That's not really what happens. All right. That's why this saying is a misnomer. It's not what really occurs. What I'm going to tell you here today is what actually happens. When we face a challenging, unexpected, or demanding situation, we fall to the level of our preparation. All right. You fall to the level of your preparation. Change a note in here. If there is no preparation, then the situation defeats and destroys you. Period. Let's get into what exactly this means in more detail and what you can do with this knowledge. Point number one. Today's topic, once again, is you fall to the level of your preparation. The number one hallmark of a professional is that they are always prepared. Professionals do their homework. You thought homework ended when you got out of school. It did not end when you got out of school. It just started. Graduation from school is called the commencement ceremony. You know what commencement means? It means to begin. It doesn't mean the end. It means the beginning. Number one hallmark of being a professional is that you are always prepared. You are ready ahead of time for the situation. You've done your homework and you see a situation and are ready for it before it occurs, even when you don't know if or when the situation will occur. And that's a tricky one right there. I just said a professional is always prepared for a situation before it occurs, even if you don't know when or if the situation will occur. You might not even know exactly what the situation is going to look like, but you're ready for it anyway. That's why you're a pro. You may be thinking, what, Dre, isn't that kind of hard to be ready for something that you don't even know what it's going to be, but you have a general idea what direction is going to be, but you don't know exactly what it's going to be. How are you supposed to get ready for that? Well, that's the question of the professional. That's the reason why most people ain't professionals. That's the reason why most people ain't professionals, because they don't want to have to deal with such a burden. When you listen to that, that sounds like a burden. Why would anybody want to sign up for that? Well, there you go. That's it. It was noted that legendary boxer Floyd Mayweather always stayed in fight shape all year round, even when he didn't know when his next fight would be or who he would be fighting against. He just wanted to stay in game shape all the time, so he never had to get into game shape. He was already there. And it's the same thing with you when it comes to your preparations. You don't need a reason to get yourself ready for something that you wish to stay prepared for. If you want to stay prepared for something, you can just stay prepared. You don't need a reason. You don't need anything coming up or anything on the calendar in order to get yourself ready for it. All right, you just stay prepared. For example, I stopped playing professional sports 10 years ago. I have no desire nor plan to play any other sport at a super competitive level, anywhere close to a pro level, other than maybe running in some 10K races here and there. And I don't consider that a pro level of a thing. It's just a race. And most of the people who are running those races ain't professional runners. And then I'll do some sparring in the boxing gym. But I'm in the gym first thing in the morning every single day working out. Now, why is this? I'm not getting ready for a competition because a professional, which I am, stays ready at all times. And I have told you all before that one of my personal principles is that I stay in professional athlete shape. And what I mean by that is if I told someone who sees me in the gym that I'm a professional athlete, they would believe me. And I was just in the gym last week, and this trainer who I see all the time, I nod and say hello to him, but I never had a conversation with him. He caught me I was stretching at one part of the gym, and he asked me a couple questions. He asked me, as I go to the gym and I use the boxing equipment, he asked me if I had any fights coming up. And then I was just telling him no. And then he was saying, yeah, I used to be a boxer 30 years ago. So I guess this guy's in his 50s or his 60s. He said, sometimes I see you in there training, and it kind of takes me back to when I used to do that. And he was conversing with me as if he believes I am a professional boxer. I'm not a professional boxer. I did not correct him. I let him do the talking. The point being that he believes that about me for a couple reasons. Number one, I look the part. Number two, I'm always in there training. And number three, I have been trained. I've invested a lot of money in boxing training, so I know what it looks like, at least know close enough. And when he sees it, he says, all right, this guy clearly has been trained, because you can't learn what I know from just doing it on your own, watching fucking YouTube videos. And that's why he believes it, because I'm in there doing the things that you would expect a professional athlete in that sport to be doing. I'm always doing them. So it makes sense that he has this expectation. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that a professional is always getting themselves ready. So even though he asked me, do you have any fights coming up? I said no. And again, if you're a pro at what you do, you don't have to have a fight or an event or anything coming up for you to still be doing the preparatory work, so that when something does come up, you're already ready. You ain't got to spend too much time getting ready, because you're already ready. You may fine tune yourself, but you're already ready because you've been doing the work already. Okay. Even if you're not looking to draw a check from the thing, your mindset can still be that of the role. I'm not looking to draw a check from playing sports ever again in my life. Doesn't mean I would turn it down, depending on what the opportunity is. I'm not looking to do it, but I'm still in the mindset of being a professional athlete. And of the mindset means not that I'm gonna work out 3 times a day, which I used to do. I'm not doing that anymore, only 1 time a day. But I'm showing up to the gym every day. I'm prepared every day. And since I never stopped working out, my body reflects someone who never stopped working out. Again, anybody can do these things in your particular space. You don't have to do this in the gym. Do it in a space that makes sense for you. And again, this is not something that's going to change when it comes to me. Maybe not until I'm 60-something years old, at which point maybe I'll just switch over to golfing or something. But I'm not that good of a golfer, but maybe I can develop some golf game over a couple of years the same way I developed some boxing skills. So even then I might keep going. Maybe I'll just keep going when I'm 60. Who knows? We'll see. To be determined. Point here is, this first point is that when you're a pro, you're always getting ready. And since you're always getting ready, your level of preparation is very high compared to the average person. And therefore, anything that comes up in that particular space, you're always prepared for it, even if you weren't preparing for a thing, because you're always staying ready. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is you fall to the level of your preparation. Number 2, battle test yourself. One thing I tell to a speaker, let's say a person who's speaking in person or a person who's speaking virtually, the way you really develop your skills and show your mettle as a speaker is when you have live engagement with your audience. I always enjoy, when I'm speaking, taking questions and giving answers to a live studio audience or a live audience period, whether online or offline, when I'm speaking. And the reason I do this is to give people a chance to ask anything that they want to ask, to share any comments that they want to share. And it's here where I get to show my real skill, because it's one thing if you have a prepared talk. And I mean, you can't always tell when I'm talking, did I prepare this talk? Did I write down all my notes? Am I reading off a teleprompter? Am I looking at notes? Did I already know what I was going to say? Have I said this before? You don't quite know if I'm giving a presentation that I already know I have this much time and I'm going to talk. I do that on my live streams. I do it on this show right here. I do it when I give keynote speeches. You don't really know if I prepared, how much of this I prepared, and how much I'm kind of going off the top and speaking extemporaneously. But when I answer questions from the audience, you know I'm not prepared for that, because I didn't know what you were going to ask. I have no idea what questions anybody's going to ask me when I take questions from an audience. I have no idea what kind of comments I'm going to get when I start reading comments and responding to them when I'm doing a live stream virtually. And where you show your real skills when you can answer those. When you can handle those smoothly and deftly without stumbling and falling all over yourself, that's when you show your real skill. Because again, it's one thing to recite something that was prepared for you. It's another thing to handle stuff that's getting thrown at you right there on the spot. It's like in boxing, for example, a lot of boxers look great when they are hitting the mitts or hitting a punching bag, because mitts and punching bags don't move on their own and they don't hit back. And it's a whole different story when you get in the ring and someone's throwing actual punches at you. Can you look just as smooth in that situation? The game tends to change. As they say, real life tends to differ from the lab tests. Can you take live questions as a speaker on whatever topic you're talking about? Because if it's a topic you know your stuff on, it doesn't matter what somebody else. Which is the reason why I always take live questions. So anybody can deliver a prepared remark. Well, most people can deliver a prepared remark. It's a whole other thing to respond to questions that you don't know are coming right there on the spot without getting thrown off of your spot, as I just said. That's called battle testing. It's the same reason why in sports, teams have practices. They practice against each other, or they practice against other teams. Why? So we can see what the game looks like. Let's simulate a live game situation. So when you get in a live game situation, you're not thrown off by the fact that this is not the same as just our training. So again, it's one thing to go to a boxing gym and hit the punching bags. Another thing to go to a boxing gym and have somebody else punching you and you're trying to block their punches and hit them at the same time. It's a whole different game. That's the battle test. At some point, you got to do some battle testing. So in doing so, you not only get to show your skill to yourself and your audience, if there is one, but you also learn what might get thrown at you when you get into a live situation. So for example, when you're speaking and people start throwing questions at you, you learn what questions may come out of what you just said. So let's say you're giving a speech that you're going to give all the time. I have speeches that I give over and over and over again, and I get to find out whenever I take live questions and answers what kind of questions people ask when they hear the things that I said. I get to see what they're holding on to. What parts are they remembering? What parts are they forgetting? What parts are memorable? What parts are maybe don't seem substantial to particular audiences? And that informs me, where should I go next with this? Or what's the next thing that I should do with this? The reason I have a book called The Third Day is because the third day is a concept that I've been talking about. I was talking about the third day back in 2014, 2015. Actually, I was talking about it before that. And the book, The Third Day, didn't come out till several years later. But I knew the third day was a valuable content piece and a valuable framework, because whenever I would give speeches and I would talk about the third day, that seemed to be the thing that people remembered the most, was that concept. And taking live action on the thing that you're a pro at, that you're prepared for, it tells you exactly what people are catching on to and what people are asking about and questioning and remembering when you do your thing as a pro, which tells you, here's the thing you should get ready for next. Here's the next thing you can do. Here's the next piece you can give them. Here's the next add-on to what you already have going on. It provides you your future material. So the more of that you do, the better you'll be for the next time you're speaking to an audience. If you're an athlete, for example, any of you who's ever played a sport, you have some moves that you worked on or some drills that you did, and you have these skills that you're going to use, and you go get into a live game or a practice against another player, and you start trying to use those skills, and some of them may work the way you expected them to, and some of them, based on the adjustments of your opponent, may not work as well as you thought they would. So now you got to go back to the drawing board and you got to make an adjustment to the adjustment. Okay, so I thought I was going to do this move, and it worked the first couple of times, but then my opponent started adjusting to my move and stealing the ball from me or blocking my shot, or they beat me to the spot. So now I need a counter move to the counter move. So now they saw this move, now show them that move. Now they saw that move and that move, now I got a third move. And then you just keep building, in the basketball world, what players now call your bag. You keep building your bag of skills by continuing to come up with counter moves to the counter moves, because it's like a chess match between you and your opponents. And this is all part of the preparation. This is all part of the preparatory work, ladies and gentlemen. Back in the days when I used to make the basketball YouTube videos, I would make a bunch of videos just doing a bunch of drills that seemed random. And players would say, well, Dre, when would you ever do all of these different moves in a game? And I said, the whole point of me doing the drills is not that you're going to just choose, or okay, today I'm going to do move number 27. And next time I'm down the court, I'm going to do move number 96. That's not how it works. What you do is you develop your skill set by having all the different movements, using different pivot feet, using different hands around the basket, being able to go to your left, to your right, making different types of shots from different angles, leaning different ways. You develop all the skills so that you can pretty much do anything. Then when you get into a live game situation, based on the response of the player you're playing against, your defender or the defense itself, then you can make your adjustments to what they're doing in front of you. And wherever you end up, you can do something there because you already practiced doing something from that spot. See, when you're practicing a sport like basketball, for example, beautiful thing about it is that you can practice a lot of the game by yourself. You just need a basket and a ball. You don't need any other people. But a live basketball game is 5-on-5. That means you have 4 teammates on the court with you and 5 opponents on the court. So it's a whole different game playing 5-on-5 basketball as opposed to practicing 1-on-none by yourself. But if you practice 1-on-none with a good view or a good idea or vision of what a defense looks like, then you can make smarter decisions about how to practice, so that when you get in the game, the stuff you have practiced actually translates. It's the same thing that my boxing trainer used to tell me, is that shadow boxing is the most important part of boxing, because you want to envision an actual opponent throwing punches at you or moving about, and you have to play offense and defense. You got to mix them together. How do you move? Or do you just keep standing in one spot? You have to envision what the opponent is like, and that's how you get yourself ready for a real boxing match. Because in real boxing, unlike hitting a punching bag, most of your punches are not going to land on the face of the opponent. When you're hitting a punching bag, usually you don't miss any punches. When you're in a real fight, some of those punches are going to get blocked. Sometimes the opponent's going to move, you're going to miss. So what do you do then? So you need to get used to throwing punches that don't actually hit something, because that's often what happens in the ring. The whole point is, folks, you get ready for what's coming by simulating or being in live action. And this is the reason why training is so important. And high-level performers in the sports world especially tend to do a lot of training that simulates the live action. So when they get into the live action, Nothing is new or novel or unexpected. All right, we've all seen it already. And you can build that into whatever it is that you're doing. So this is getting you ready for whatever's coming next. And the more of that you do, the better you'll be the next time you're doing that thing. And again, this can apply to speaking. This can apply to doing interviews. This can apply to debates. This can apply to a politician doing a town hall. This can apply to an athlete playing a sport. The more you get into the live situation, the better prepared you can be for the next time you're in that situation, because now that last thing that you saw won't surprise you the next time. So this is the reason why in sports, as I already said, they have scrimmages, which are what? Practice games. This is the reason why fighters do sparring, which is what? Practice fighting. It's the reason why lawyers prepare their cases by arguing the strongest of points of their opposition. Why? So you are battle tested and you're ready for whatever the opponent may throw at you when you get into the live situation. You already got a feel for what they're going to say because you already practiced it. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is you fall to the level of your preparation. Luis Seneca, the father of modern Stoicism, he's the father of old Stoicism and modern Stoicism. He said the following, and I am quoting. This is from a book that is compiled of his letters called Letters from a Stoic. If you haven't read it, I strongly suggest it. Quote, strangeness adds to the weight of calamities, and every mortal feels the greater pain as a result of that which also brings surprise. Therefore, nothing ought to be unexpected by us. Our minds should be sent forward in advance to meet all problems, and we should consider not what is wont to happen, but what can happen. Should I read that again? Read it one more time so you can catch it. This is Louis Seneca. Quote, strangeness adds to the weight of calamities, and every mortal feels the greater pain as a result of that which also brings surprise. Therefore, nothing ought to be unexpected by us. Our minds should be sent forward in advance to meet all problems, and we should consider not what is wont to happen, but what can happen. Close quote. Stoicism, for those of you not familiar with it, is a philosophy that teaches you to focus only on what you can control and to stay calm, disciplined, and rational no matter what is happening around you. Also known as poise. That's what poise means. You're calm, disciplined, and rational even if things around you seem to be chaotic. The well-prepared mind does this very easily, as you can see everything coming before it happens. And again, what is preparation a hallmark of? Professionalism. You see how all of this stuff goes together? Even the things that you didn't see coming, you saw them coming when you are well prepared. When you're well prepared, even a surprise doesn't throw you off, and it doesn't surprise you. Even if it is a surprise, it doesn't surprise you because you expected surprises. See, when you expect a surprise, it doesn't throw you off. And what Seneca is saying here is that when something comes to you that is unwanted, if you are unfamiliar with it, that makes it even more of a problem. But if something unwanted comes to you and you are familiar with it, either because you considered it or you've dealt with it before, then it's not as heavy a burden. Then he also says that you feel more pain when you deal with something unwanted that also surprised you. It's less pain when you deal with something unwanted that you expected to come. Why? Because the mind makes things greater or lesser than they actually are. Therefore, nothing should be unexpected. That's what he said. Nothing should be unexpected. Your mind should be sent forward in advance to meet all problems. So you have already considered the possibilities of everything happening. So whatever happens, you're already ready for it. Your mind being sent forward. In other words, you project into the future mentally what could happen. So anything that does happen, you're already ready for it because you already dealt with it. But with your third eye, as we say, that's your mind. You already dealt with it by seeing it with your third eye before you saw it with your physical eyes. This is a concept of Stoicism. So again, if you're not familiar with the concept of Stoicism or haven't read Louis Seneca's Letters from a Stoic, I suggest you read that, add that to your reading list. You want to see somebody or read someone who talks about it in more modern day times. And there's a guy named Ryan Holiday who's went and basically taken this whole concept of Stoicism and built a whole business and brand around it with a lot of books and such. Ryan Holiday has some good stuff as well. So I would start with the original Louis Seneca, then I'd migrate over to Holiday. All that said, let's recap today's class, which is you fall to the level of your preparation. All of you have heard the saying of rising to the occasion. That's not really a thing. What actually happens is this. Number one hallmark of a professional is that they are always prepared. They are ready for a situation before it occurs because professionals do their homework. Number two, you battle test yourself. I tell this to speakers, you tell it to athletes, you prepare and practice for what the game is going to be like before you get into the game. In other words, if you've never been on the big stage, you get on the big stage and practice from the stage. You never had people ask you live questions, go do something on the internet and let people ask you live questions. See how you can handle those live questions without stumbling all over yourself to get you ready for it happening in real life. as a lawyer. You know there's going to be an attorney on the other side who is going to cross-examine your client, and they got to be ready for that grilling. Therefore, you grill them in practice so that they don't fall apart when they get grilled in real life. So you always prepare ahead of time for what the real situation is going to be, because it's always different from the lab test. Number 3, as Louis Seneca said, strangeness adds to the weight of calamities, and you feel greater pain as a result of something which also surprises you. Therefore, nothing should be unexpected. The true professional is not surprised by anything, because you expected everything and you're prepared for anything that might possibly happen, even if you didn't know what it was going to be. That's why you're a pro. All that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. This is where you can get your mindset into the right place, your business in the right place. You can have me as your direct coach. It's the only place you can get all those happening at the same time. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. See who we've helped, see who we're working with, see what we're looking for, see if you're next. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Also, dreallday.com/AI. Interact with my brand new, perfectly free Dre GPT chatbot. That's at dreallday.com/AI. Work on your game. Dre all